Hey everybody, welcome back to the Court of Random Opinion. My name is Lauren Neidigh. I wanted to skim over some of these unsealed documents in the Blake Lively versus Justin Baldoni case really quick. I'm not going to go over everything right now. I don't know if there's anything really interesting in one of the longer documents, but I did want to touch on some of this because one of these has to do with Isabela Ferrer, who played the younger version of Blake Lively's character in the movie It Ends With Us. She made a whole scene a couple weeks ago accusing Justin Baldoni of harassment because he subpoenaed her, or was trying to at least. To that point, she hadn't yet been served, so they were attempting to get permission to serve her by alternative means, and then her lawyer, who ignored their attempts at service, filed something on the docket using some very crazy and very intentional language to describe what they felt was going on. They said that Isabella was trying to avoid all of this, stay out of it, even though Blake Lively had already subpoenaed her and she complied with that without any resistance. And she's an important witness to events, so why the hell wouldn't she be involved? They said that in trying to subpoena Isabella, Justin and Wayfarer were harassing her somehow, causing her to have bad press. They called it like a publicity stunt, maybe not in those words, but which is just ridiculous because she's actually very relevant to the case. And I recall Omar having some choice words to describe her attorney. Some of what was unsealed yesterday included what Blake had said about Isabella and her disclosures. So this is what Blake says Isabella would apparently have knowledge of. The party's alleged conduct, the sexually discriminating, harassing, and other inappropriate or unwelcome actions, conduct, or comments made during production of the film, complaints or discussions about the work environment or conduct on the set of the film, the production, editing, cut, and creative processes associated with the film, efforts taken to market or promote the film, publicity surrounding the film, the retaliation campaign alleged by Miss Lively. Now, why would she even know all of that, first of all? Especially when it comes to the editing and the cut and the creative process, that doesn't make any sense. She shouldn't have been involved in that at all. Remember, as far as the comments that were made that Blake is alleging were inappropriate or whatever, they were not on the set at the same time. So we have no idea if Isabella actually had any complaints about any comments that were made. Blake was the one who made them. And based on what we can see right here, they clearly had a lot to talk about. Blake clearly influenced her opinion on Justin. She was extremely complimentary of him, said he made the experience great and the set a safe place for her. And then, of course, when all this marketing and publicity stuff starts happening and all the cast is going out with Blake and they're cutting out Justin, now she's acting very differently towards him. And I remember one of the most bizarre things written in her filing regarding his subpoena was that he appropriated her narrative by sharing those text messages where she's praising him for making the set a safe place and a welcoming environment, which directly conflicts with the narrative that Blake Lively's trying to spin. Everything that she's done has been very bizarre. She knows that she was involved in the film. She knows that she has information that's relevant to the complaints. It's not like anybody saw something she posted on Instagram and then tried to subpoena her bank account because they didn't like it. So her whole response to the situation screamed entitled asshole to me, and that's her own doing. That's nobody else's doing. Her lawyer came out aggressive and inappropriate in ways that he definitely did not need to do. And if she's okay with how that went down, then I don't really think that she's such a great person either. We have a little bit here regarding this dispute between Jed Wallace and Blake Lively. They've been arguing over jurisdiction for a while. Blake is trying to say that Jed was part of some conspiracy that was carried out in New York, and he knew it happened in New York. Part of what was redacted here before says Discovery confirmed the Wallace defendants were communicating extensively in and after late July 2024, I guess with the Wayfarer defendants. But the thing is, like, they contacted him, sure, and then we saw some messages where they were talking to him about potential services, but he wasn't actually doing any work for them until August 9th. I know that they're alleging August 7th here. I don't think that makes a difference, but still, he said in his declaration he started on August 9th, talking about potentially doing work and getting information about the project. That's not actually doing any work. No contracts were signed up to that point. I don't know what you think this is going to accomplish. Because even if he was working for them in late July or earlier in August, catching someone in social listening by a crisis PR firm, that's not really the flex that you think it is. So here was the redacted text when they were talking about Melissa Nathan maybe not being such a reliable source of information as to like where she was when she was communicating with Jed Wallace at some point. This is what they consider to be some sort of damning proof. So Miss Nathan avers that she does not recall ever communicating with Mr. Wallace while she was living or working in New York. But a document produced by Ms. Nathan only last Friday, which has been in her possession all along, shows her exchanging text messages with the Wayfarer parties and Mr. Wallace and Brian Friedman on September 18th, 2024, and noting that she is on Eastern Time. Neat. Good for you. I'm also in Eastern time, and I'm in Florida. That does not establish that someone was in New York. She could have been in the bowels of fucking Rhode Island by then. Maybe she went to visit Dunder Mifflin in Scranton. But good for you. You did your big one with that. Nice. As far as these text messages go, or like the threads from email or wherever else it came from, I don't know what all has actually been shown already versus what, is just now unsealed for the first time. I did see this one and I thought it was interesting. Jen Abel says, paparazzi caught you and Emily out getting coffee yesterday, and now you're being labeled as the unbothered king. People are desperate for a new narrative. That's why I think we should start peppering in normal life stuff with your socials to start to shift the narrative. Yeah. And I just thought that was interesting because even though people were labeling him the unbothered king, he actually seemed pretty bothered when you see the text behind the scenes, not in this thread necessarily, but he was very anxious, and you could see how scared he was that he was going to have to try to defend himself. So when some of that stuff came up more recently, it wasn't necessarily totally new information, but it was, sad in context. And then, of course, you see here with the paparazzi photos, people think I staged it. He says, I had no idea that could happen in Ohio. It's a tiny town. Should we start to be prepared for that stuff? Jen says, I mean, yes, but nothing to necessarily prepare for. Pops are absolutely being more mindful of capturing children because they've been sued so many darn times. And the nicer you are and more willing to say hi, the easier they will be on you. Just keep being you and doing your thing. You're not somebody we worry about. Dude, Justin is just a nice guy. Like, he did not ask for this kind of attention. I find it so frustrating that this is happening to him of all people. The guy really just wanted to do good with the movie, and you can see that right here. This is an incredible post from someone we have worked with on Man Enough. He nailed it as it was in my exact intention, something I could post, and then this message isn't coming from me and honoring victims. We'll call the police. That's a smear campaign if I've ever seen one. And then Jen Abel responds to that, let's boost this instead of you posting it. Some of the comments reference Colleen romanticizing DV, and we don't want it to be interpreted as a dig at anyone. I know the video has nothing to do with it, but let's instead have third parties amplify instead of you right now. Dude, these are the people being accused of a smear campaign. That is crazy to me. And at the end of the day, I don't really care if they were doing what standard PR teams do, defensive PR. I don't care if they were boosting certain stories over other ones to try to protect his image. That's not retaliatory. These people were perfectly happy to go their separate ways from Blake. And then she blew all this shit up, which ultimately I don't think ever would have happened without interference from Stephanie Jones. And we're still waiting to hear any sort of ruling on the Stephanie Jones complaints and Wayfarer's complaints against her. And remember, that's where all this Van Zandt nonsense originated from, because Blake Lively used that shell company Van Zandt to obtain messages between Justin Baldoni and the other Wayfarer defendants from Stephanie Jones, his former publicist. When Stephanie Jones took everything off of Jennifer Abel's phone, she was stupid enough to run her mouth immediately, and then Blake's PR person, Leslie Sloan, was also stupid enough to run her mouth immediately, calling Melissa Nathan, telling her she's going to be sued because they've already seen the text messages. And we know that happened before there was even a Van Zandt subpoena. And there is a record of that phone call from Leslie to Melissa. I got to get back to work, but I'm sure I'll have some time to dig through some more of that later. If anything else interesting pops up, I'm sure I'll be back. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys soon.